Tell me about Mug Club! Why do they still operate on YouTube? A lot of free content for a premium service!
Or perhaps you should ask why they need to create a paid service. If YouTube kept its word in the first place.
At least you can talk! Who are you?
It doesn't matter who Mug Club is. What matters is our plan. No one cared who Mug Club was until I put on the makeup.
YouTube just bans your channel! Will you and Mug Club just die?
It would be extremely painful.
You seem like a big tranny.
For you.
Was getting flagged part of your plan?
Of course. YouTube opted to demonetize our channel in favor of the Young Turks.
Well, congratulations! You got caught! So what's the next step of your master plan?
Well, your flagging only drew awareness to your authoritarian practices on YouTube. My club was created for the people to join and support authentic, creator-generated content. They will sign up at louderwithcarter.com/mugclub for the daily program, and then move on to our final step.
What's that?
Trolling the site. With no more subscribers.
That is the sound of the weekend as the music fades out. Today is Romper Day. Thank you so much for being with us. Send us your pictures, your rompers. Producing with me in video studio, as always, is Jared, who is not gay. Follow him on Twitter at NotGayJared, me at SCrowder with your questions.
I'm not even convinced
comments. I fulfill my legal obligations. Draw your I can't even speak clearly. It's getting into my brain. Draw your own conclusions. Are we good?
No. Go on.
At G. Morgan Jr. He picked that outfit. Hey, by the way, before we get to anything else, next week is going to be the free 7-day trial for those on YouTube, watching this on YouTube right now. People who are not Mug Club members, we do the daily show. A lot of people are saying, well, I want to try it, but I can't be bothered to go off site. Because there is a 7-day free trial over there if you go to louderwithcarter.com/mugclub or CRTV. But we are going to do 7. Next week, Monday through Friday, all the episodes will be free.
Because we care.
Because we care.
Yes. About the cheapskates.
And yes, exactly. And because YouTube is trying to squeeze us out, so you don't know what you're missing. Great guest today, Stefan Molyneux.
Yep.
Yeah.
Molyneux, but I'll say it the wrong way. And we have Matt Iseman. So one of our most requested guests, Stefan Molyneux.
We're excited. Fantastic.
And we'll be talking about the Trump-Comey situation, Russia. We did a timeline on Monday, but some things have changed, so we didn't want to touch on it every single day, or we would have no shows.
No.
And we'll get into that in a minute. So, in other news, 40,000 illegal immigrants have been arrested by ICE.
Good Lord.
U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, they've arrested more than 41,000 individuals, and that's 37.6% more.
There you go.
Compared to a comparable segment of 2016.
That's awesome.
That's great.
And
this is the silver lining.
Yes, this is the sliver of hope. A special investigator was tasked with rooting out and finding the illegal aliens, or as it's more commonly known, Googling Home Depot. That's Bing will do in a pinch.
That's entrapment.
This is another, I swear to you, true story. Cyclops one-eyed goat. This goat was born in India, and well, let's roll the clip so you know it's real.
Days ago, on this farm in India, there was a very rare birth, a one-eyed goat. The condition which causes this is called cyclopia.
And apparently, this is true. Indian villagers started worshiping the goat because they see it as a deity.
That sounds familiar, by the way. I've heard that sound before. I've just. That's it. That's what it was.
It's either Krishna incarnated or it's David Bao, Dr. David Bao. They think he is a deity incarnate. When asked for comment regarding being a deity incarnate, the one-eyed goat shit himself and ran into a fence post repeatedly, so don't. But these two villagers are holding out hope that this is a sign of the ultimate fulfillment of prophecy yet to come. The goat with two assholes. Fingers crossed. And I give the sign unto you, he shall be called Wrigley. Double the pleasure. So, a company came up. An English company? Is this English or Japanese? Sounds Japanese.
It sounds Japanese.
They have created and will begin to sell the world's first talking sex doll.
Oh, jeez.
Because that's why people buy weird sex dolls.
They want some lip.
The inventor has also claimed that this sex doll will have 18 personalities. 18 personalities. That's to fulfill the long-standing fantasy of screwing James McAvoy from Split. Apparently people really want 18 personalities, also known as every girl after tequila. I don't think they're...
I don't get the point.
It's like 10 grand too.
I know.
It's not cheap.
Well, 18 personalities for a small, for a nominal upgrade fee, you can actually get the doll to stalk you and boil your kid's pet rabbit. So that's an...
A worthy upgrade. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, there's a software update immediately released on getting it to shut the hell up. That was the first. It's iOS.
Don't ignore that one.
Star Trek. There's a new. This is also in this new Star Trek series. You've seen the new Star. Everyone's. I just, if Star Trek were playing on a jumbotron in my backyard, I wouldn't lift the shade. This is a new series that's going to be released. It's the 6th incarnation of Star Trek. It's already being titled Star Trek Discovery. That's what they've rested on. Not on the list of anticipated discoveries. Sex with not your hand. To be followed by Star Trek 7, Leaving Mom's Basement. Star Trek 8, Talking Sex Doll. You saved up. You made it. Okay. Trump, this is the situation this week. So we did a timeline earlier. This is what everyone wants. By the way, we have a bet going. The Vegas betting odds have put Donald Trump's chances of being impeached in his first term at 60%.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think that this isn't fake news? This is the Vegas betting odds.
Well, like we said yesterday, money as a way of making people bring out corruption and honesty.
It could also be brutally honest.
Yes.
I mean, the guy's not going to fall on his... The guy's not going to just, well, I hate Donald Trump, so I'm going to... He's going to create a bet where he can't possibly win money.
Yeah.
I thought that's the first time there has been a greater chance of him being impeached, those betting odds right now. What do you think? We'll place our own bet. So we'll bet... What do you bet? Do you think Donald Trump is impeached first term?
So he's giving you odds on it? Like
Yeah, 60% odds that he will.
No. I'll take that money every day.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think he'll be impeached either. I bet no. Edward the Sound Guy bets no. Not Gay Jared?
I think... I don't think he'll be impeached. I would bet he'll resign before it's over.
You bet he'll resign?
I would bet he will resign.
The last thing he would do is resign.
No.
So if you lose
he resigned
the bet...
from 2 marriages already. I don't know put it past him, dude.
Yeah, but that's
got a
everybody
track
does
record.
that. If he resigns it, it's admitting that he was wrong.
Okay,
and he
whoever
couldn't do
loses the
job.
bet has to walk down a crowded street in their manny panties. For those who don't know, when we do nude scenes at Louder with Crowder, we wear manny panties, so it looks like we're nude.
Crowded street. Would define crowded.
As crowded as we can find it.
Oh, jeez.
All right, so let's give you a timeline for those who missed it. Some people will say, can you just compile this? Because it's hard to make sense of it, I understand. May 9th, Donald Trump fires Comey. Okay, so that was, people were saying, well, this is clearly trying to obstruct justice with the FBI investigation in Russia. Okay, that's not necessarily the case. Then Trump meets with the Russians, okay, and he was accused of leaking classified information. His team goes out and says, well, he didn't leak classified information. He didn't even address sensitive information. Donald Trump tweets out that he did discuss sensitive information. Not classified information. That's important because one is a legal term. By the way, he's a president. He can declassify whatever he wants. And one is just you probably shouldn't discuss issues that relate to national security with the Russians. Then, of course, what happened is Trump asked Comey, you can get rid of the prompter, by the way. Okay. Trump asked Comey for the Flynn investigation to end. That's alleged. That's a memo. And they wrote about that in the New York Times. And then, of course, now there's a special counsel for the Russia investigation. Couple of things here. I do think that this is showing us some leadership flaws with Donald Trump. Has he broken the law? It does not seem that way. But he is not being cohesive with his message. He's sending them out with talking points, and then he's contradicting them. I feel bad for Sean Spicer. I feel bad for Kellyanne Conway. I used to think Sean Spicer was an idiot. I just don't. I think he has an impossible job.
Yeah,
very much so. The problem is he can make leftists right just by making these constant mistakes. On the flip side, there was a fight on CNN about this. When every single source is unnamed, when every single source is anonymous, I get you have to protect your sources. I understand that, but At a certain point, if this is going to get legal, a source is going to be revealed.
Yeah.
So it's what the left does is they just, anonymous, we heard this, do you deny the allegations? That really bothers me.
Yeah.
What also bothers me is Donald Trump not just having a team huddle before he goes on Twitter and completely contradicts his national security advisors. What do you think? How bad has this been for Donald Trump?
I think this has been terrible, but it's kind of foreseeable too. He does some stuff, he has some missteps, but then they have these sources, by the way, were two former people associated with this. They're not people that are currently in the deal. So I'm just like, come on, how reliable is this? And then for her to get up and yell like that at this guy saying, well, who are the sources? That's a reasonable question.
Yeah.
So I don't think anything's going to come of it, though. I really don't.
I mean, like what were you saying, Joe? You were saying he's kind of running the government as though he's running he ran his business. Now, there's nothing wrong with. I think it's better to run the government like a business than a nonprofit, as the community organizer from Chicago did.
We were talking about this yesterday. He's handling this exactly how you would expect Donald Trump and his businesses to handle running an office, and it's everything's favors for favors. He doesn't really, which is fine when you're skirting the law in your own business and being kind of
yeah, that is true,
dishonest. But it's a whole different thing when allegations of obstruction of justice are coming forward, and that's a whole different thing. They're running a business saying you can't just scratch your back, mine for yours, to get you out of obstructive justice.
I don't think he's been obstructing justice. What I do think is this has shown that before the end of his term, he can slip. He is a liability. He's a liability because he doesn't think before he speaks. And he's been allowed to get away with that for his whole life because, think about it, from the moment he was able to understand money as a concept, every relationship he's had has been someone subservient to him.
Yeah.
He can buy or sell people. They're going to do what I like because I pay their salary. Same with his administration. You're seeing him fire people if they criticize him. That you're seeing him fire people just because he doesn't like them. He's using them politically. Now, I don't think he's used to having adult relationships with people who are his equal because he's always had a leg up. Now, there's nothing wrong with being born into wealth. But I do think, listen, what really worries me is they're going to say it's his lack of experience. I think someone can go into office as a business person with lack of experience, but a business person who came from the middle class or lower middle class, who built up a product or service and created a business and employed people is very different from someone who was leveraging loans, eminent domain, filing, Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Yeah. It's a different business model. Remember when people criticized Mitt Romney because they were saying, well, Bane Capital, that's different. All he does is go in and gut these businesses and make them more profitable. Well, that's kind of what we needed with government. Someone who had that kind of business experience. And the kind of business experience Donald Trump has, you can see him trying to run government that way. And I hope he takes some advice from people who can help him.
And I think there's a problem with right now with people saying, oh, he's not draining the swamp. And like with Comey, he just fired him in much a way the same kind of fashion he would have fired an employee that was not.
In much a way the same kind of fashion.
And what happened?
I believe was perturbing.
Character.
Okay, go ahead.
In much the same way you would have fired an employee who refused to toe the line. It wasn't. He didn't do it in a way that. This is an independent FBI director of the United States.
Man, he's now becoming a little bit of a douchey president. Are we surprised?
Well, he did it in a way that wasn't even consistent with what he told his team to tell the press.
I agree.
They were like, well, no, this letter was written. He's like, screw the letter. I was going to fire him anyway. I didn't like him. And it's just like, again, a leader should make the people who follow him look better.
Yes.
He should make them look smarter than they are. He should want to elevate the people who work for him more than himself. That's what a good leader does. And so he's not obstructing justice. I want to see the guy do well, but I think for the guy to do well, he needs to stop giving these gifts to the left, and I would like to see him elevate his team as opposed to shifting them around when they do something he doesn't like.
Do you think he knew he wasn't under an investigation by the FBI?
Yeah, I think...
Do you think he knows the difference?
Yeah, I do. I think he knows the difference. I don't think Donald Trump's unintelligent. I don't think he's super intelligent. I think he's of average intelligence, and I think he's out of touch because of the life that he's lived. And I think that you're seeing...
ego, too.
Yeah, and you're seeing some of those consequences. And I think the media this is a big witch hunt. It's completely a liability. It's just not a good situation.
It's complicated because you come from Barack Obama, where the media swept everything under the rug.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And the contrast makes it so much worse.
Yes, and so it makes people who otherwise would be thinking critically of some of Donald Trump's mistakes to completely gloss over them because the media has put him on his heels so much when they were so soft on Obama. So I understand those dynamics, and it's just been an exhausting week. Speaking of which, Planned Parenthood has a new video out. At the tiller of this advertising, it's one of those things where you wouldn't realize until you go, hold on a second, I'm watching this. This is evil. You're watching a PSA for Planned Parenthood, and then you realize what they're promoting is evil. Joss Whedon, Avengers fame, I guess going back to Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I like that.
Directed, wrote, I don't know, created this Planned Parenthood spot that people are praising. Let's go through it and see just why. All right, so here we lead off. Dramatic music.
Sounds just like a movie.
Well produced. Sounds just like a motion picture.
It's a reverse tear.
Tears. It's a reverse tear.
Screwed me up.
So you're seeing right now, everything is occurring in reverse. This is the theme of the advertisement for Planned Parenthood.
Very bad.
So it looks like they're talking about breast cancer. We'll come back to that in a minute. Right away, no shame in painting black Americans in a negative light. No. Apparently, Joss Whedon.
And a
Planned
white
Parenthood. Planned Parenthood. That's what they've been doing since the beginning of time. Margaret Sanger thought that they were stupid and thought that they were less evolved human beings. If you look at some of her writing, she believed in eugenics. And that's one thing, too. My wife works at a crisis pregnancy center. Everyone who comes in 2017 knows about birth control. So let's before they get to the whole birth control thing, no one buys that, okay? A lot of people who come in just didn't want to use it. That's it. Sure. She's like, 9 times out of 10, that's what it is. She has yet to see someone who didn't know that you could get condoms for 25 cents at a truck stop. So that's important to note here with Planned Parenthood, because this is their constant argument. I remember when I was a kid, they said, well, black Americans don't have access to computers in their libraries, so they don't know about birth control. And now they just say, well, black Americans don't know. How uneducated, how ignorant must you think black Americans are to say that in 2017, they don't know about birth control?
Yeah,
this is a soft racism.
Yeah,
of the
soft
life.
racism by low expectations.
All right, let's keep going with this advertisement as though it's going really well. More reverse. Oh, scholarship. Can't let a human life get in the way of that. You have women's studies to get to. Oh, hold your regret. Hold your regret. Nah. So, again, this is a clear-cut example that abortion is sacrifice at the altar of self. We've talked about it. This commercial is making it compassionate and beautiful. Oh, my scholarship, as she holds a living being. But if we go in reverse, you can kill it.
You can kill it.
Let's continue with this advertisement. See, the problems would be solved if they walked through the doors at Planned Parenthood. Look, sex education. For those who don't have Bing. Really? I didn't even know. I was having sex. I never even heard about birth control. Thank you, Planned Parenthood. Oh, look. I love this, by the way. Look at this. They gloss over that. They show the black woman with a rag over her. They go back to her?
Yeah, I think they come back to it.
Do they? Hold on a second.
She's going to school.
We're so proud of our little murderer. They don't go back to it. All right, that's enough. So I love how they show the black woman, by the way, with this towel over her, and this is the one with breast cancer, so they're checking her. Yeah, by the way, we have more employees than Planned Parenthood has mammogram machines.
It's true.
They cannot provide adequate breast cancer screenings.
Yeah.
When you say Planned Parenthood doesn't provide mammograms, like, oh, it's just right wing. No, they never have. They cannot provide mammograms. Period.
Yeah.
No one told that black woman that.
No. No. What would it touch it?
Come on, don't spoil it.
Yeah, she's still dying apparently in this video.
So again, just the dishonesty as a plan. Here's the deal too. My wife works at a crisis pregnancy center. Okay, people come in. There's not Planned Parenthood, and yep, I will tell you full disclosure. It is more of a faith-based crisis pregnancy center. They do provide birth control. They provide sex education, but their incentive is to try and get the person to either have the baby, give it. They provide adoption services. They provide support for single mothers. All of that. They do all of it, and they very often find that women go in there with the idea of abortion and can be very easily convinced to not do so. As a matter of fact, they're often pressured by a boyfriend. The most common scenario is they knew about birth control, didn't use it, and a boyfriend doesn't want to have the baby, so the woman goes along with it. And very often they are encouraged to either keep the baby, give it up for adoption, and more of these women leave, go to school. They're actually inspired. Planned Parenthood's moneymaker, almost exclusively, but their biggest moneymaker for sure is abortion. So they are just as incentivized as my wife is where she works to get them to provide this baby for adoption. By the way, there are foster parents, their parents right now lined up who are trying to get kids in who can't. Planned Parenthood is just as incentivized to get them to kill their baby. So whether you walk into a Planned Parenthood or some other crisis pregnancy center which provide better healthcare, better resources, and better references, that almost will determine statistically whether you abort your baby or not. How is that not evil?
It's absolutely evil. And they don't do anything good. They just basically scar women for life. The girl that walked into the college scene after that, she had the abortion. Oh, good. Let's see how that works out in the next few years.
And then I got a PhD in social studies. But here's the thing: they go with the cinematic feel, so it's okay. They were dead set. You know, if you look at the articles, they were dead set. They wanted to make it look like a film. They were really married to the idea of a film producer from film, not television.
To pull on the heartstrings.
Yeah, to pull on the heartstrings, which is interesting because actually, you know, they went with Joss Whedon, but they had another direction with taking a filmmaker. Yeah, the first filmmaker screen test was almost distasteful.
Bye, bye, baby. I'll just abort you so. Bye, bye, baby. You just had to go. No consequence. I'll just toss you away. Bye, bye, baby. Throw you in the waste. No responsibility. I only think of me. And just because I can, I'll abort my baby. Bye, bye, baby. It might seem so unfair. Bye, bye, baby. It's just I don't care. It's just I don't care. It's just I don't care.
What a lead. And Stefan Molyneux coming up next, then Matt Iseman. All right, glad to have our next guest. Nothing is done well today with this. Actually, Pogo. Pogo is a fan of this. I think when he was on the show, he talked about him. One of the most requested guests. Here's the backstory. I thought for sure he would never come on the show. I didn't, because I thought when we first started the show, remember we would send out requests and everyone said no?
Yeah.
So he did say no when we were starting.
Just coming to work.
A long time ago. And then we saw that he's a secret member of the Mug Club. And I followed him for a while. Pogo likes him. People have requested him. There we go. Irish by way of Canada, Stefan Molyneux. You can follow Stefan Molyneux. You can follow us up at freedomainradio.com. Did I get that right, Stefan?
That's, as far as an American goes, that is a fairly good thwack at the French syllables. And I given the very intimidating T-shirt you have on, I'm just going to say that was perfect, my friend. Good job.
Thank you. Well, I can say it's Stefan Molyneux. I can say it, but I was in Montreal. But I try. Do you find this in the United States? You try and say it the wrong way? when saying something in French, like lingerie is not a French word. So I'm like, lingerie, lingerie, the first time I read it, and they're like, what are you talking? You mean lingerie? It's like, oh, that's how you say it. Okay.
Well, so the other day I did a show where I was mentioning, what's the French phrase for déjà vu again or something like that? And of course, a whole bunch of helpful commenters said, that is French. I just wanted to help you out with that.
That was, I love, Steve Martin, he had that, he said, he has a certain, I don't know what.
I don't know what.
So, and there was a guy actually a bunch of named David Pride where he talked about people using French words that they were erotic. He was like, people say, I like sleeping au naturel. Do you think that anyone in Paris right now is saying, oui, moi j'aime dormir buck naked? It doesn't have the same effect. But why a French name if you're Irish?
Well, this goes way back. Okay. So my family originally came over with William the Conqueror in 1066 in the Battle of Hastings. My understanding is that we were fairly alpha to a bunch of half-starving Irish peasants, ended up being awarded some land. And then I think it was a great-grandfather who, strangely enough for an Irishman, enjoyed the bottle quite a bit and ended up trading off land for liquor. And thus we would cast forward into the world to make our way among the normies. And so far, I actually think it was a very, very good change on the family tree.
Yeah, well, he's what we would call an outlier for an Irishman. Great. So I'm really glad to have you on the show. Obviously, you're a big presence on YouTube. Everyone's been talking about this. We'll get into kind of some Trump issues later, topical stuff. But YouTube, the demonetization scandal, I guess it's going on. You've been on top of this. What's your take on it? Because we've tried to express the nuance with our audience. YouTube is free to do whatever they want. But they are changing the game on content creators who help build the site. And that's my issue with them.
I have two minds about it, Steve. So I'll tell you what I think, and then you guys let me know what you think, of course, right? So the first thing is I have sympathy for the people who've got payroll to meet, who've got bills to pay and so on, and who are relying on this. And I've seen people, big famous YouTube guys, they're posting like 90% reduction, 95%. I even saw one 98% reduction, and I'm pretty sure his light went out during the actual show because I couldn't even pay the electricity bill.
Just like the Grinch with hooks and some wire, yeah.
Yeah, we'll be doing the show outside from now on because nature's lighting is better.
Yes, exactly.
And so I think that it's really, really tough for the people who've got that kind of stuff. On the other hand, I really like that the left, if they're the ones behind it, and I think it's fairly safe to say that they are. I love that the left is not making an argument, but is instead doing what the left does in general, attack your reputation and try and destroy your source of revenue. That is a confession of weakness. There is a fight for Western civilization, which I also like to call civilization, and it's not going to be pretty. I love the fact that they're getting lazy, that they're running to the government, that they're running to advertisers rather than getting better arguments and taking us on in the ring. If you're a boxer, you really love it when the other guy sits on his ass, stuffs Cheetos into his face, and doesn't train, because everyone's going to have to get into the ring at some point. I love the fact that we're getting leaner and meaner while they're getting fatter and lazier. Yeah, actually a regular guest on the show, Chael Sonnen, he's an MMA fighter, and all these MMA fighters used to try and act virtuous. They'd say, well, I hope my opponent I hope he's the best Anderson Silva I've ever fought. And Chael Sonnen would go up and go, why would I say it? Why do I want to fight the best Anderson? I want to fight a sickly, ill-prepared, underserved, undercoached Anderson Silva, kick his ass and go home without a scratch. That's how I feel about YouTube. It's interesting that you say the left, because we had Karen Strawn. Some people are saying, well, it's not a political issue. And you can tell me what your take is on it. Now, I understand there are people, gosh, what's his name? I forgot his name.
Patrick Moore?
No, Pac-Man. Pac-Man is his name, is his nickname. I don't know. Karen Strawn was talking. I guess he's a liberal, and he was demonetized. Now, I do think that this has affected some liberal channels that take on controversial subjects. I'm willing to acknowledge that. But if you look at their active support, YouTube's active support of the Young Turks and Samantha Bee and Trevor Noah, I think it's pretty clear that they've bet on some liberal horses and the other liberal horses get screwed, but there's not a single conservative or right-leaning horse in the stable. I mean, you can't find one. So I do think it's a combination of both, but they don't want right-wingers to have a seat at the table. Do you think that's ill-founded, or have you seen that? Oh, non-leftists own YouTube. I mean, it's our domain. It's our hood. Yeah. We own this particular platform, and, they've managed to transcend any kind of objectivity with regards to Facebook and Twitter and other platforms. So, yeah, this is our neck of the woods. Now, I think that what they've done in the attempt to appear more fair
is they've obviously demonetized controversial stuff as a whole. But the problem is, of course, as you know, Stephen, leftist stuff is generally mainstream these days. And so if you're going to start hitting controversial stuff, you're going to disproportionately hit non-leftists. And of course, it does help that it promotes the mainstream media, who are considered to be authentic news, practical news, regular old, gotta be honest news. And so the mainstream media is monetized and is available in searches and is promoted, but they're generally on the left as well. I mean, the last holdout was Fox, and it looks like they're crumbling now as well. So if you're going to just say, well, mainstream media is fine, that automatically is, to me at least, a leftist bias to begin with.
Oh, I think so, especially with the moving goalposts, right, with what's considered offensive. The truth is, right now, if you believe that you are born biologically a male or female, that's considered offensive. That can be filed as hate speech, and you're not going to find leftists who say that. Which brings me kind of to a point. Now, I know you and I would disagree on probably a multitude of issues, probably 50-50, where we'd agree and disagree. Probably, I would say, maybe a few years ago, we would not be talking as much. We'd probably be seen as more so on opposite sides of the fence. Do you think, though, that just because of how intolerant and narrow-minded the left has become, that it's created a bigger tent for sort of conservatives, right-wingers, I guess you would say libertarian philosophers? I don't want to misrepresent you, but you're not I guess, sort of a conservative in the traditional sense, yet here we are. And it doesn't seem like the left can even do that.
Well, all I want is for the conversation to continue. The conversation called civilization, where you bring reason, you bring evidence, you bring your best rhetorical and skills to a conversation, you debate, and it is in that furnace, it is in those sparks that the sword gets sharpened. And of course, I'm talking about the allegorical sword and all that, but I just want the conversation to continue. So when you've got people on the left, when you've got them throwing rocks, when you've got them planning acid attacks at right-wing gatherings or non-leftist gatherings, when you've got them setting fire to policemen in Paris, well, that kind of shuts down the conversation. I've chatted with liberals on this show, people on the left on the show. Wherever there's a civilized conversation, man, I'm there, I'm in, like Flynn. But when you have people who want to pull fire alarms, who want to stop speakers from coming to campuses, publicly funded campuses, well, then I think we have a common enemy. There are those of us who want to have the freedom to disagree and converse, and there are those of us, those over there, who want to shut everything down and impose kind of martial law in the realm of ideas. And I think we can all get together and say, that guy in the choir, who brings the air horn and a sheep and keeps rotating its hips slowly to make it sing, that guy's making us all sound bad. That guy's got to go so we can get back to some harmony and sing-offs or rap-offs or whatever.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you. It is a multi-ethnic audience here, so I appreciate you injecting the rap, the hip-hop culture, because that's important for us to maintain our base. I do. Julie said 4 black guys. I'm tuning out. No, actually, I'm
Yodel out to my home fellows.
Yes.
That's how it goes, right?
I believe so.
Right with that, yeah. Well, I try not to appear too old and out of touch on these kinds of shows. So.
Well, if you're Canadian, you appear old and out of touch no matter what when it comes to... It's like, that's the one thing... well, Drake is from your neck of the woods there in Canada. Drake, and he is from he's a half Jew who played a paraplegic in the Degrassi show, who now, he's a buttersoft bitch who now sounds like he's from Memphis. I'm like, how does this fakery get through the rap industry? As a Canadian, I can't get my head around it.
Poor people don't have access to Google.
Yes.
Even. That's the problem here.
I only have Bing. Okay, sorry, we've gotten off track. Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that because, well, for example, I know you're would you say atheist? Would you? I don't want to. Some people don't like the term atheist. You're an atheist. I'm a Christian. Is that a fair?
Well, here's the thing. Philosophically, I'm an atheist, but over the last couple of years, I've had, I dare say, an evolution towards a massive and deep appreciation of not just my Christian heritage, but the West's Christian heritage. And I've actually found that I like Christians a lot more than atheists.
Okay.
Who tend to be kind of high-strung, kind of aggressive, often underemployed, and gravitate enormously towards the left. Statistically, this is true. Yeah. And so my sort of particular concern is that what I love about Christianity is to focus on the individual conscience, and you can't point guns at people and make them good. Like the moment you introduce force in the Christian theology into somebody's moral behavior, boom, out goes the morality. It's like introducing force into dating. Suddenly you're just a creep in a windowless van.
Yeah.
And so
all of a sudden it's rape. I know. Believe me, we've had to deal with this.
So the fact that Christianity stands for a smaller state, which allows people to pursue moral choices and get to heaven that way, means that I'm far more in alignment with Christian ideals and Christian philosophy than I am with atheists who seem to want to get rid of God so that they can blow the state up to like biblical proportions.
Well, you know, it's very interesting that you said that, because I have seen that, and I've seen you talk about that, and I think it's very thoughtful. And the reason I brought it up is because, yeah, I think a lot of people, I mean, I've been on YouTube for a long time. And so most Christians on YouTube, I would say from probably about 2009 until 2015, we didn't really get a seat at the table to represent our own views. It was angry atheists who kind of dominated YouTube who would represent it for us. Like, they don't believe in evolution. We didn't get to say, hold on, that's not true. You know, we didn't get to say, well,
the Pope has accepted evolution.
Yeah, and I didn't even get to say,
time ago.
I'm not a big Pope guy either. But I think you have a better grasp, I think, on probably sort of the fundamental concepts of Christianity than like Nake Jared and I have talked about, some social justice warrior Christians who take Christ's give unto Caesar what is, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's as give it all to Caesar and do it by force. But it's interesting that we can find common ground there today because the left is again, so intolerant. Christians and atheists kind of coming together just as free thinkers. And that just really interests me. I feel like that's been an acceleration in the last year and a half, 2 years, where atheists and Christians have found common ground against the left blob.
Well, this is the thing. So Christianity is a conversation. It's one of the few religions that is primarily spread by the word and not by the sword, unlike some others. And so the fact that Christianity is a conversation has far more in common with philosophy than somebody who's an atheist who wishes to spread his ideas through the power of the state. Atheism, to the degree that it aligns itself with state power, is a coercive religion, just as communism was a coercive religion. Communism's traditional hatred for Christianity was the hatred of a self-directed, conscience-based ethic that stood in the way of the expansion of state power. It was like how the mafia would hate a cop, you know? Like, well, the cop stands to the expansion, it stands against the expansion of the mafia. And so I find myself, when it comes to my particular dedication, which is, you know, the non-aggression principle, personal property rights, self-ownership, and so on, that dovetails very nicely. And to be honest, you know, I thought all of this stuff was original, but the more I looked in sort of my own history and my own heart, Steve, the more I realized that it came out of my Christian upbringing, this idea of the individual conscience, that you don't run to the state, that you have conversations with people, that you reason with people as best you can and try and convince them to be good, rather than say, you got to help the poor, and if you don't give me half your income, you're going to jail. Yeah. That is not part of my upbringing. And of course, I pillaged a lot of that and took pride in it. But the honest truth, when I sort of sat down and really thought about it, was if I hadn't been raised as a Christian, I don't really think I would have ended up with that starting place, if that makes sense.
No, it does, and that's really interesting to hear, actually, because not necessarily, you know, you do have. Well, actually, have you read at all Alec Ryrie, professor? He was on the program, and is it Protestantism? What's the name of the book? Protestantism, the Western. He's on the show, Professor Alec Ryrie, but he does talk specifically more so about Protestantism and, of course, the history of Martin Luther, where he wasn't just standing up so much against the church. If you look at actually kind of a political establishment of that day. And even going back to, you know, if you go into the Bible, the Pharisees and Sadducees, and he talked about how specifically Protestantism was founded on this idea of being deeply skeptical and questioning authority. And obviously when that turns into accept the church authority, that becomes a problem. But the way I was raised with Christian parents, they always encouraged me to, you know, I wasn't raised Catholic. It wasn't this person's word is divine or this person is infallible. Although I understand that relates only to spiritual issues. It was always, hey, listen, question anyone, anything you hear in church, question it, ask me questions. And I don't know that necessarily my Islamic friends or where I was in Montreal had that upbringing. Probably not. They were probably killing people.
Well, this is the challenge, right? I mean, so skepticism, which was the foundation of the scientific method and so on. And skepticism also was the foundation of the Industrial Revolution, because sort of way back in the day, there was such a tight control under Catholicism of the economy. Right. Like, believe it or not, there's these wild stories about if you were walking through a market, like in sort of 14th, 13th century and so on, if someone sneezed, they could be banned from the marketplace. Because what happens is, if you sneeze, then somebody is obligated as a Christian or just a decent person to stop and say, bless you. And then you might fall into a conversation where the guy can sell you something. So sneezing was considered an unfair competitive practice, and you weren't allowed to do it. You weren't allowed to find these. So there was such a tight control over the economy. And then the Protestants, of course, came along with this massive skepticism. The foundation of Protestantism was something's really gone wrong with religion, and let's stop having the priests yell at us in Latin, and let's actually start reading stuff for ourselves. And this is, I did this show years ago, but this is a direct parallel to what you and I and others are doing on the internet. This is the new Gutenberg. This is the new printing press, right? There was all of these texts that were held in private, in secret, in foreign languages, and you weren't allowed to read them for yourselves. And now, then with Luther translated the Bible to the vernacular so that people could read it and discuss for themselves and think for themselves and reason for themselves, give people access to the primary text, let them think for themselves. Well, let people think for themselves is the foundation of the modern world. Stop being told what to do, stop being told what to think outside of government schools, the mainstream media, academia, et cetera, et cetera. And this is the new Protestant revolution, I think, what's going on the internet, where we can have these conversations, directly plug into the minds of people with no intermediary, no censorship. And this, going back to the monetization issue, Stephen, this is what the demonetization is supposed to do. It's supposed to get you to start self-censoring. Ooh, do I really want to spend 3 days researching and producing this video if it turns out I got a 50-50? So the soft censorship is the real problem, and you just have to grit your teeth and drive through that. We'll find a way to flourish and survive, because I think we have the truth of the process on our side. The truth of the conclusion, who cares? It's like science. Philosophy, thinking, conversations is a process. As long as we continue with the process passionately and with integrity and with honesty, I don't think there's anything that can stop us, because there's no putting this genie back in the bottle.
Yes, I agree. You got to rub it before it breaks. Gutenberg analogy. We haven't gotten that on the show. We've gotten the Hindenburg quite a few times with this program.
That's just referring to your guns with that T-shirt.
Yeah, thank you. It's not. No, hold on a second. See, because if your audience, this is a romper. It's not a. I don't wear tank tops. That would be douchey. Stefan, that would be embarrassing, Stefan. Okay, we do have to get going here, because I could talk about this all day. And one thing I do want to touch on. You said the process is really what matters. I think that's an important facet here that a lot of people gloss over. Atheists and Christians can respect and adhere to the same process and come to different conclusions. So I think it's actually pivotal that you said that the process is what matters. And again, when you talk, then you have leftists who come in and go, oh, this is a process, and they toss it out, with the aborted baby in a wastebasket. Listen, you've been a big President Trump, obviously, advocate, fan. The general consensus is the last couple of weeks have been kind of tough. What's been your view on it? I'm exhausted with it all.
Well, Steve, that's because you're listening to the media. And the first thing you want to do, have you ever had it in your life? I just had a call-in show with this recently, and a guy called in, and he said, oh, I have problems with my girlfriend. She thinks that we want to have babies. She wants to have babies, and I never really wanted to have babies, blah-de-blah-de-blah, and she's bringing all this stuff up, and it's driving me crazy. So I'm like, okay, put her on. And then she says, well, for the first 2 years, he was saying, oh, here's what our babies are going to be called. And here's what, I want 2 boys and a girl and this, that, and the other. And so once you get the other side, it all kind of no longer makes any sense what the first person is saying. You're getting the side from the media, particularly around this Comey memo. The Comey memo, something that someone wrote at some point in the past. Nobody's actually seen it. All that happened is the New York Times had someone who claims to be having inside knowledge read parts of this memo to them. It's not interference in an FBI investigation. It's not any kind of illegal action. It's just him saying, hey, I wish the best for my friend. I hope that it doesn't go too far, this kind of stuff. It is not any kind of torturous interference. It is not anything illegal. And if it was, Comey's in deep crap, because Comey is supposed to report any interference in FBI investigations. Right. And if he didn't, that is actually illegal. And he could be brought up on charges. He could lose his license to practice law. If Trump did something that was illegal and Comey didn't tell anyone, and now it's just floating up, right after the guy got fired. He didn't even tell the guy who's the acting director of the FBI. And so Comey himself has said nobody interfered in investigations. The acting FBI director said nobody interfered in investigations. This is a media-generated panic scandal that's just designed to appeal to the base.
I think it's a media-generated.
The Dems don't like democracy when it doesn't go their way, and now they want to change the outcome of the election. So they're manufacturing all of this stuff.
Well, I understand. I don't think it's totally.
Show, please.
No. I don't think it's entirely manufactured, and I certainly wouldn't say that we're only getting one side of the media. My issue is more so Donald Trump. Here's the issue here with Donald Trump. He's hanging his team out to dry by not having a cohesive message together, and it makes them look stupid or it makes them look incompetent. When you have Kellyanne Conway going on saying, no sensitive information was discussed. Now, I'm not talking about classified information. By the way, he's president. He can declassify whatever he wants. So I want to make that clear. But then when he tweets out, yes, I did discuss sensitive information, they need to get into a huddle and make sure they're on the same page, because they give more validity to completely unsourced, completely unsubstantiated claims from the left by just giving them, I wouldn't even say an inch. They're giving them a foot, and the left's going to take 10 miles. And I just wish you were a little more tactful. We were talking about this today. You're relatively, compared to Donald Trump, the sort of modicum of fame or notoriety that we have, right? But as someone who's a philosopher and seems interested in psychology, you've probably encountered, this is what I see as an issue as far as behavioral patterns. You've probably encountered people who already recognize you, right? And they come up and they're fans. They behave with you very differently.
All I do, sorry to interrupt, but I basically just grab them by the pussy.
Yes.
Because it's really, really important to milk that fame for what it's worth.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think I have it on a bumper sticker somewhere. But you understand that, like, these people, they interact with you, right? We would agree differently than people who've known you for a long time. Well, ever since Donald Trump has been of age to the point where he can understand money, every relationship he's ever had with someone has effectively been that. It's been a money relationship where people are, to some degree, enamored with him. He's famous, he's wealthy, and I think you see that sometimes in not having people around him who might criticize him, who might provide him with some valid criticism to correct, because we see him making some of these miscommunication mistakes in a row. And for us, that's kind of what we sat down and realized this week. Almost all of his relationships as an adult, since he's been old enough to have these adult relationships, have been with people beholden to him to some degree. And I do think that's a problem, and I hope they get some outsiders in there just so that they can get the story straight, because it does get tough to follow.
But so he met with the Russians, and he talked about stuff that wasn't classified, and that's perfectly fine.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that.
What I'm saying is
Now, the interesting thing is that some of the information that was leaked to the mainstream media appears to be more classified. In other words, it was the people doing the leaking who may potentially have broached some classified topics, not Donald Trump in his meeting with the Russians. So
Right, but they said they were talking about sensitive information.
I want immigration law to be enforced. If taxes can be lowered, fantastic. The wall is of interest to a lot of people, and this idea of did he say something untoward in some meeting with the Russians? This is nonsense. It doesn't matter. And
I do think. Hold on, let me just say the one thing I do think.
Some people are saying that.
Yeah, the one thing I do think matters though is I'm not talking about classified. We agree on that. What I'm saying, what matters is as far as, because the Vegas odds have gone to a 60% chance of him being impeached. Now, this isn't fake. These are the Vegas betting odds. They get it right. They get it wrong sometimes. And I think the reason they're seeing that is, again, not that he talked about classified information, but the concern is that he sent out people, his subordinates, with marching orders that he then contradicted, an hour later, and that makes them look really bad. And that's not something that a good leader does. And that comes with experience. But my point is, when they say, no sensitive information was discussed, no information regarding terrorism, or when they say, listen, we had written a formal letter to fire Comey, and he says, who cared about the letter? I was going to fire him anyway, and contradicts the memos that they've been given. My issue is just, I hope he gets that leadership just a little tighter so the left doesn't take the ball and run with it.
Say there's, look, smoke.
Yeah, look, smoke, because it doesn't seem like there is. All of these sources are unnamed, and you have to protect your sources. We understand that with journalism, right? But when CNN and New York Times, when they're all unnamed sources, listen, if they want to take any kind of legal action, at some point a source is going to have to be revealed, and no one wants to stake their reputation on it. So I think it is mostly fakery. I just think he gives them a little too much leeway as far as a leadership ability. That's my criticism.
Well, okay. Let me sort of give you a counterpoint. Let me know what you think. So,
sure.
If you had literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people combing over everything that you said and did, just trying to find something that they could get a shiv in through, that would be a pretty tough life to have, right? I mean, that would just be a very, very tough existence to sort of wend your way through. And so is the left going to find some contradiction from here or there? Was one thing said and then another term was used? Why give any of it oxygen? That's my question. Why give any of this media hysteria oxygen? It doesn't matter. Yeah. What matters is what his agenda was, his support from the American people for what he wants to do. What matters is the job growth. What matters is the economy growth. What matters are the tax cuts, the enforcement of immigration law. That's what matters. My concern is that you may, to some degree, be fanning their flames by giving some of this stuff oxygen. What does it matter if, one person says the word sensitive. Sensitive doesn't mean classified. It just means delicate. So who cares what was said in that meeting? It doesn't matter. I think we need to try and drag people's attention away from this constant bat-screeching hysterical media and just get people back to the bigger issues, because I'm concerned that some people as a whole are kind of feeding into and fanning the flames. Well, they've got a point about this. They got a point. I don't think the left has much of a point about anything.
I do think this week they have some, not the left. I do think some detractors have some points, and I try and hear what their points are and say, okay, you know what, maybe you have a point there. I don't think, for example, we can talk about we can talk about it another time. We have so much to get into, but I don't think I'm fanning the flames or giving it more oxygen than Donald Trump's Twitter. I think if we want to give it less oxygen, I think just having a small meeting before going out there half-cocked with a tweet that contradicts his team, that's what I'm saying. I think we could fan the flames less if they were just a little bit tighter, because the last thing you want to do is some slip-up all of a sudden makes the Young Turks right about anything by accident. God forbid. It's not happened yet. I don't think it will, but I just don't want it to happen at some point in the next 4 years. That's my nightmare. Stefan Molyneux, freedomainradio.com. Hey, speaking of demonetization, how can people support you right now?
Oh, well, of course, freedomainradio.com/donate is the place to go. I entirely survive on listener donations. My videos are not monetized. I sell a couple of books, but no merchandise and all that. So yeah, if people want to support, of course, like, subscribe, share, and so on. And of course, I would recommend this for your show as well to anybody who listens to this from my side of the aisle. youtube.com/freedomainradio or freedomainradio.com, and listen for a while, like, subscribe, share, the usual thing. Oh, by the way, One last little story. So the other day, I heard this story about a kid who was little 3-year-old who was going to bed, and he goes up the stairs and he says, please like, subscribe, and share, because his parents had been watching so much YouTube that he thought that meant goodbye.
Well, I think the kid needs a nanny. freedomainradio.com. I think YouTube is his nanny. That's why we take so much responsibility on ourselves at this program. For the children. freedomainradio.com. Stefan Molyneux, thank you very much. We will talk with you soon. There's music.
Thanks, Steve. Great pleasure.
It's just I won't let
Many of you are still unaware of the items available at louderwithcrowdershop.com. Not only do they make you look and feel better, but they serve a multitude of purposes. Like our Socialism is for Fag shirts, assisting in identifying potential allies.
I found that shirt very offensive.
I think it's pretty funny.
Or our Bad Hombres Firearm t-shirt, helping you know who to avoid.
Am I to take that shirt to mean that you support some kind of firearm registry?
Or this one.
Hey, look, it's my face.
I hate it. Though louderwithcrowdershop.com isn't for everyone.
But can I buy the mug from the shop without joining the mug club?
No! The rest of you, check out the merchandise at louderwithcrowdershop.com today.
It's library time. It's library time. For those who don't know, that's a reference to Video Game Arcade and Top 10, a show on YTV in Canada. Stefan Molyneux knows, because he's over there. Hey, Stefan Molyneux is a member of the Mug Club. You can be too, and if you don't want to, we have a 7-day free trial on YouTube next week. As you saw Stefan talking about this, he's funded by donations. We don't do donations. We do the Mug Club, where you also get access to the entire CRTV lineup. Mark Levin, Michelle Malkin, a bunch of new names to come. They've just shot a bunch of pilots out there. And it also keeps everyone employed. The Jared, Edward, Francine, Gerald to a degree, Aaron, Courtney, Casey, Brodigan, Corey. It really is your support that keeps these people in business. And if you're a student, $69 annually. So $99 annually, $69 annually if you're a student, veteran, or military. Just enter in the discount. And we can't thank you enough for the support. YouTube has made this a necessity. Daily show, you can have it on the app. You can watch it on the go. It's actually, we're going to a new platform because of the people who joined the Mug Club. It's going to be a whole lot better than YouTube's platform. And it's what allows us to keep fighting back on YouTube and keep creating the free content, like Stefan was talking about. He lives off of the donations. He keeps it going by the donations that you send, and that's what keeps him on YouTube fighting back. It's what keeps YouTube conservative territory. The left may not like it, but we own that plot of land. Pretty much. We don't technically own it, but you get it digitally, like the digital agricultural revolution. Sure. louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub. Thanks so much for your support, and please join if you haven't. If not, you're probably a cheapskate, but we still appreciate you. Just less. Just less. All right. You know what? I would say glad to have our next guest, but I will tell you, I think he suffers a little bit from overexposure these days. Because I go to my rheumatologist, lo and behold, who do I see? Matt Iseman on the cover of Arthritis Today. What's the conversation like with your agent? They're like, hey, you hurt?
All, how can you tell me suffering from overexposure in that outfit there, Bruno?
Well put.
I mean, Dean Cain didn't even wear that back in the 80s.
No, that's true. I wish Dean Cain had worn nothing.
This is my third time on the cover of Arthritis Today magazine. I know. I put my pants on one leg at a time. I'm still human.
And it's extremely painful.
It's for me, it's been great having been involved, having rheumatoid arthritis, having been involved with the Arthritis Foundation for over a decade now. It's been nice getting to tell my story and becoming, I like to say, a celebrity amongst the GIMP community. Really one of the breakout stars of it.
Well, that was the last time you were on the cover of that magazine. Sold them all.
They're gonna be the next byline is just an apology. We apologize for previous cover model Matt Iseman's comments.
No, it's funny because I've said that, and I say it in the loving way that we all struggle with joint pain, and for some of us it's a little more severe. But that's the entire reason that I'm on the cover of that magazine. That's why I competed for Arthritis Foundation on Celebrity Apprentice. I think it's important for people to tell their stories because, particularly for men and for guys who I'm still relatively young, not compared to you guys, but for people who are out there who are suffering from this disease, it can be kind of isolating. Yeah, and I think it's important for people to know that there are others out there who have arthritis, who have rheumatoid arthritis, and are still leading full lives. And I'm not competing on Ninja Warrior, but I talk about people who compete on Ninja Warrior.
And I was going to get your plug in there.
Thing.
At Matt Iseman on Twitter. Yeah, exactly. At Matt Iseman on Twitter, host of American Ninja Warrior, and they have Celebrity Ninja Warrior coming up soon. When's that happening?
It's May 25th. It's part of Red Nose Day. It's going to be us. It's Bear Grylls running wild. He's going to have Julia Roberts, and then there's going to be a live telethon, and Akbar and I will be out there in New York. It's been nice. I think NBC has really started to show a lot of attention and appreciation to Ninja Warrior. It's like we're the booty call that's now becoming a girl they take out on their arm.
You must have a great agent. You guys want Matt Iseman. He's the kid.
It's John Gilbert Gottfried, apparently. I was going to say it's John Lennon. Iseman won Celebrity Apprentice. Now you need to use him more.
Yes. Also, I need work. Sorry. Okay, listen, speaking of that, NBC, great. Unlike those pieces of human crap at ABC, you were talking about this. Tim Allen, I run into him quite a bit every now and then in the summer. I don't know him at all. I think he also is one who refused to do our show, along with Stefan Molyneux.
So. I can't figure it out.
Well, Last Man Standing was canceled. Mm-hmm. And you've been following this. I mean, it was the second highest rated comedy over there at ABC, and it won its time slot regularly.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's, the thing I heard was that actually because of the show's success, sometimes a show's success can work against it. That you get to the point where I think he's heading into the season 6 or season 7.
6, yeah.
And the problem with success, salaries go up, costs go up. And what I'd heard was that the show was actually becoming prohibitively expensive because everyone deserved higher salaries. That was the story that I heard and that I hope to believe. The one that I think Tim feels actually happened was he expressed some conservative beliefs. Right, that he expressed some conservative beliefs and maybe wasn't as artistic about it. Anytime you invoke 1930s Germany, you're going to run afoul
but the show was really right-leaning. The show was constantly throwing jabs at Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Also Donald Trump. Yeah. I mean, I will say this to people out there. Find a more fair show than here. We legitimately make fun of every. I mean, I have 5 Roger Ailes jokes here that I could not use today. That's how the show operates. And I'm amazed that Last Man Standing made it as long as it did.
To me, and that's one of the things that's why I like your show is I feel there's a balance there and that you're open. You and Joe Rogan, I think, are two of you're underrated as interviewers in that I think you invite people in who have views that are all across the spectrum. And I think you genuinely listen to them and engage them. And for me, that's what I like. I don't want to hear an echo chamber. I want to hear someone who hears different points of views and who either pokes holes in them or realizes their own mistakes. But in either way, hopefully your knowledge base is growing. And unfortunately, as I look at it, I just don't see a lot of that going on. And it just particularly it feels claustrophobic.
I mean, my thing is, I really do feel as though today the left is incapable of laughing at themselves. I mean, when you look at how much flack we'll get for Donald Trump jokes today, Samantha Bee, Seth Meyers, they are incapable of making jokes about whether it's Hillary Clinton, whether it's Nancy Pelosi. Like when something is
Planned
just
Parenthood, anything.
right, just it's T-ball for them. They choose to sit it out. I am amazed. I'm like, how can you even remotely consider yourself a consistent comedian with this? It's okay to have a point of view, and you're seeing this with Last Man Standing. Like every other show is super far left, and this is a show that makes fun of both sides, has a more middle American bent. And it's gone. I don't buy the salary thing. I think Tim Allen's right.
If you have a winning product, you figure out how to make it work.
You figure out how to make it work. What's your opinion?
Yeah, well, yeah, it is. It's certainly suspicious. I will tell you, with television, we've learned there are innumerable variables, and it's impossible to know what's going on. I think it is unfortunate because I feel the same way, where you're starting to hear very, very much one side dominate in terms of comedically. And again, I feel then it's not fun. You know, I much rather prefer to hear people taking shots. And I feel like when you look at the country, Trump, you know, it may not be 50%, but a lot of people supported the president and support these points of view. And I feel like to have it consistently be one side, you end up eliminating.
Speaking of one side, is it bright on one side, or did you have a stroke? Because one of your eyes is repeatedly closing.
Oh no! So this eye drips. I have a lazy eye. It's the craziest thing.
Oh
Anytime
damn
I
it! Now I'm a jackass.
People go, "Where are you looking?"
I've never seen you do that before.
I end up, I'm very right eye dominant, but I tend to do that. It's my Clint Eastwood look.
Damn it! Now I feel
an
horrible
chair over there. No, it's one of those things. You're going to lose your career over this. All the people with lazy eyes are going to protest you.
This deserves to be demonetized.
This deserves to be demonetized. He said GIMP. I made fun of him for his lazy. Listen, come on, okay? If you're looking for embarrassment, all right, get a load of that, okay? I'll make fun of myself more.
I really, for me, I think comedy, nothing should be sacred. I'm one of the, look, my comedy, I'm pretty straight-laced, but I love listening to people like Doug Stanhope or Jim Norton who talk about the most off-limit subjects, but are funny about it. And I feel like there shouldn't be any taboos. We should be able to laugh at everything. And the best comics can say things completely antithetical to your beliefs, but it's so funny, and there's some logic to it, some truth to it. And I feel like comedy has been getting. I don't like to see comedy thought policed. And again, I feel like every point of view, either South Park is the best to me, where it's either we make fun of everything or you make fun of nothing. Right. Because it's everything should be, you know, when they did the episode with Muhammad and drawing Muhammad, I thought good for, you know, it's easy to
then Comedy Central, though,
Jewish people.
Yeah, Comedy Central came down on them, and that was a thing, and there was a realization for them. Yeah, I hope, you know, with Last Man Standing, it's sad to see that, and it is sad to see them. I mean, you expect it from networks, and unfortunately, that's actually seeping into the stand-up comedy world. We've talked about that with Jim Norton, and we've talked about that with Nick DiPaolo, and that's what worries me. You expect it from ABC, you know, hey, shut up and fly right. But hopefully, like we were talking about Stefan Molyneux, it's the self-censorship. I would hate to see comedy change because people just don't want to take the risk because they're afraid of those repercussions. We do have to get going. American Ninja Warrior at Matt Iseman. He won Celebrity Apprentice, and go pick yourself up a copy of Arthritis Today.
And that better not be in the bathroom with Jared.
It will not be flagged, I tell you that. We'll be back wrapping this up after this. There's music.
Thanks, guys.
Pogo.
And now for the Diary of Sean Spicer. Entry 934.
Dear Diary, feels good to write over here again. Tumultuous weeks like this, it's time where I find solace in all of the familiarities of everyday life. Like you, a glass of red wine on my bed, nestling into my pillow. Sweetie? I'm busy.
Stay tuned for more Diaries of Sean Spicer.
lot of currents in this studio. Taking you every which way.
It's weird. I don't know why.
This
the timing of the last segment with that kind of thing.
The romper acts like a sail. It catches. It's very. You don't want to be wearing a romper when you're caught in a riptide.
No.
Thanks to Matt Iseman. What a nice guy. I feel like such an ass. I was sure because he'd never done that before. I had no idea. Lazy eye.
I don't know either.
I had no idea.
I don't know.
I was sure it was a layup. Like, you know. Oh, did you have a stroke? No, it's the sunlight. Ha 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 ha. You're not a jerk, but you play one on TV, and it's like, oh, he has a neurological thing. There have been few more embarrassing moments on the show.
No, tweet us your stories. I'm sure people out there have some stories of assuming and making jokes and
yeah,
doesn't
like
go so well.
Pregnant or something like that.
Yeah, fat and pregnant. Yeah.
Yeah, or retarded. I've had that. To me, people thought I was retarded. I've told you this, or they thought I was. They perhaps thought I was autistic.
I'm still not.
When I was
convinced.
Yeah. It's just turned out it was really boring.
Yeah.
School was really boring. I didn't like it. I'm like, oh no, he's not. This kid doesn't have a disorder. He just doesn't like school.
Otherwise known as a boy.
Yes, otherwise known as a boy. So what are we gonna do? I don't know. I just want to drug him, give him some narcotics.
That's what we do, right?
That's what we do now. Oh man, Stefan Molyneux. We'll have to have him back. That was so nice of him, honestly, to support the Mug Club. So do go to Free Domain Radio and listen. Even though I disagree with Stefan on a lot of stuff, I want to see people supporting him. I want to see more voices out there. And like I said, it's amazing how wide this tent is. Think about this week's show. This week's show, the shows, but this week's show collectively. But Stefan Molyneux, Matt Iseman. Who else have we had this week?
We had...
Gosh, I'm trying to remember.
You know what's weird? Once we get the one show, I'm just on the next show.
Oh, that's right. We had Lauren Southern.
So fast.
By the way, so next week we do have Gavin. I think we have Pogo back. We have Tommy Loren in studio. I think Sheriff Clark. Really? So, and again, tell all your friends, by the way, those who are members of Mug Club, we appreciate it so much, but tell all your friends next week, every single episode is for free on YouTube, so you can see what a daily show is like. You know, we want you to go to bed with a smile on your face, thinking of Not Gay Jared. We're going to, by the way, we'll have a Farrah Fawcett poster available in the loudofcrowdershop.com of Not Gay Jared. You can just put them on the ceiling, do with it what you will. Once you purchase it, it is yours. And you know what? A big reason for that too is a lot of people are saying, well, you know, I just don't know if I want to pay that, you know, it ends up being $5-something a month. Especially, it's always challenging when we take an unpopular viewpoint and people get offended. Yeah. You know, with the Trump thing, I can already see some tweets coming in. Some people are mad. Some people like the fact that we approached it in a balanced way. I want to see the guy do well. I want to see the country do. I think most people understand this. In this show, we want to see the country do well. Yeah. Now, that takes on a different angle depending in who's in charge in the country. Because with Barack Obama, for his ideas to make it, for his legislation to be pushed forward, the country overall would have to do poorly in the long run. Sure. That's what I believe as far as socialism. But no matter who's at the tiller of the ship, I want to see the country do well. And the way the country does well is if we follow the same principles that made us a great country of free enterprise, rugged individualism, personal responsibility, of course, morals and ethics, which a lot of people don't like to get into, but as Stefan Molyneux has talked about, that's a huge foundational principle of Western society. Sure. Hopper Wishbone, by the way, taught us about that yesterday. That'll be up on YouTube for those who missed it. The separation of church and state, often misconstrued. It's not in the Constitution. Well, you'll see the video, Hopper Wishbone. Aren't you a good actor? Hey, he doesn't like me right now. Don't bother me.
Don't bother me.
I'm busy. But I will say this. I can already see some tweets, people who are mad. We were talking about this with Matt Iseman. Genuinely, when I watch Samantha Bee and I watch Trevor Noah and I watch Seth Meyers, and by the way, I think Seth Meyers can be funny. I think Stephen Colbert can be funny. Sure. I do not think Samantha Bee has ever been funny or Trevor Noah. No. But I do not ever see them go after the left. And certainly not to the same degree where we go after conservatives or the right or Donald Trump. It never happens. And it gets me so, I'm like, if you cannot tell me as a comedian that there is nothing to go after there. And I don't think there's another show out there more fair. I really don't. The one thing that I will take pride in with this show, we don't go out there and boast about our ratings. We're the best. We don't do any of that. We don't release the numbers. But I do tweet me at @SCRAT or tweet at NotGayJared. Is there a show out there that you think is more fair in its disposition and its approach to Donald Trump? From someone who admits that we're conservative. But from the right, we're very straightforward about our point of view. But I really do think that we go to pretty great lengths to try and be at least even-handed with our jokes on this show.
We have a legitimate commitment to actual comedy.
Yeah. Also a legitimate claim to Gerald using the chainsaw outside.
What is he doing?
No, we're installing a new generator in the studio, and so now you can hear him. What did you say something about Gerald comedy? What did you say?
That is nothing but jail and comedy. Those two.
I have no idea.
Generally mix.
Oh, you said something about this show. Legitimate claim to comedy.
Legitimate. I can. What's the word I'm looking for? We do things for comedy's sake because we love comedy.
Yeah.
We don't write things off as off limits like Samantha Bee clearly does.
Right.
Because
by the way, the Times Square incident. We don't know a whole lot at this time, so we just haven't tried to talk about it. Obviously, thoughts and prayers out to those who were hurt. Roger Ailes, we wrote a ton of Roger Ailes jokes, which did not make air. And again, it's not because I hate Roger Ailes, but I know that people will be really upset, so we'll probably make them next week. And I don't dislike Roger Ailes. I don't hate any of the. If we joke about something, that doesn't mean I hate them.
No.
Or if we criticize them, it doesn't mean I don't hate Barack Obama. I don't hate Donald Trump if I think he could use some advice in leadership ability. I don't hate Trevor Noah. Samantha Bee's getting there. I don't hate her. But certainly not to make a joke about them.
Yeah, I mean, Roger Ailes, wish his family.
Yeah.
That's all to cope with.
I think that's the best you can do.
Especially in the media light as it's going to be.
What? Yeah, well, I watched on CNN that little fat gay bald guy. What's his name? The fat gay bald guy on CNN. You know who I'm talking about. And right away, they were just the first thing they talked about with Roger Ailes was a sexual harassment issue.
Yeah.
But they're news. This wasn't a joke. There's it's just all the accusations of sexual harassment. And they're going like, you tasteless bastard. You're the competing news network. Do you know how this looks? If nothing else, I am so glad that people have seen, because we talked about this for years. If you go back to our closing segment about 2 years ago, I would tell people, don't so much watch just MSNBC because you know they have a bias. But what bothers me is CNN, is the bias by omission, is the lying and what they choose not to cover. And that's the problem with CNN. And you see it now. Now everyone, basically CNN and MSNBC are interchangeable. They understand how biased they are. And we don't want to do that with this show where we choose not to make jokes about a topic just because, that could offend some people on the right or the left. I think that's about as good as you can do. I think it's as good as you can do in your personal life and as good as we can do with the show. I will never lie to you.
But what's Roger Ailes up to now?
Stop it. Stop.
Is he busy?
No. Stop.
Where is he at?
Stop. Stop with the... they're writing the show map, and if I glance down, I'm going to have to read them. I think it's as good as you can do. I honestly, CNN went out, or Walter Cronkite and the Dan Rathers tried to act like my God journalists, and now we know that they're not. Well, there's never going to be a discovery where you go, did you know that Stephen is biased as a conservative? Yeah. We never lie about that. And I think you try and be honest, you try to acknowledge your own biases and challenge them. That's as good as you can do. It's certainly a lot better than lying to yourself and lying to your audience, as CNN and the New York Times have done for a long time. It's certainly better than lying to yourself and the people who pay you to keep them informed, when you deliberately keep them in the dark if it doesn't set your narrative. I have much more respect for even a Rachel Maddow or even a Samantha Bee. Nah, not Samantha Bee, because she tries to claim that she's just new. We're just going after comedy when she's not. She's a liberal Canadian socialist in the United States. I think we should deport. Hopefully ICE gets a hold of her. But I have much more respect for even a Keith Olbermann, where you know where he's coming from. I have much more respect for somebody who can look themselves in the mirror and say, gosh, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, you know what? You're a liberal. You know what? You're a conservative. You know what? You have an agenda. We are conservative. Absolutely. I'm more right-wing, libertarian, conservative. I'm not the biggest Trump fan, in the primaries, but I want to see the guy do well. I want to see the country do well. Certainly after the last 8 years of Barack Obama, I want to see our course be set straight. That's where I'm coming from. Also, I'm going to tell wiener jokes because I find them funny. I think you need to do that with anyone out there. If you think that's the wrong approach, if you think human beings are capable of being objective, truly objective, without any biases, tweet me at @SCrowder. I don't necessarily know that it's possible, and I don't necessarily know that it's a virtue to try and act as though it is. Because you're just not, I don't think it's an honest approach. And I think that what we do with this show is also how we try and approach our life, except when it comes to rompers. In that case, it's just an embarrassment all around, and everyone should feel great shame, as you should if you wear them in your daily life. We'll see you next week. Tell your friends every single show on YouTube. Free. Full shows.